Hello everybody, Kyoto Winston here, and today I will be doing What If Deku Had the 10 Commandments, Part 2. So in the last part, Deku just basically got 3 of the 10 Commandments, with those 3 commandments being the Commandment of Truth, Reticence, and Pacifism. Now, continuing the story, at about the age of, let's say, 10, Deku would have awakened his 4th commandment, with that 4th commandment being the commandment of, well, love. Yes, you heard me right. Deku awakened the commandment of love at the age of 10, which is one of the most OP commandments in there. And by there, I mean all of the commandments. As Deku, whenever he awakened his 4th commandment, he would have tried to do the same thing just like the other 2, or well, 3 commandments that's before that. However, Deku would not actually find out how to activate this commandment of love, because no one in his class actually hates him. Why? Well, it's because in the minds of everyone in Deku's class, Deku has a quirk, or well, at least a power. To their knowledge, that is, because Deku still haven't told anyone that he has more than one power. To be exact, 2 more, and now 3. As for how Deku finds out the abilities of the Commandment of Love, well, he doesn't. Since after experiencing the power of the Commandment of Pacifism, Deku realized that if he uses his powers like he always does and just test it out anywhere, then people, just like last time, might actually die. So Deku told himself that unless it is an emergency, he will not use his quirk or other powers outside of his house, or should I say more specifically, his room. Yeah, and remember when I say that Deku is testing out the commandment of love like the other 3? Well, that was only in his room. But he did try to use it in class. However, after leaving it on for a few minutes, Deku would immediately start to feel uncomfortable, because he's starting to have flashback to when he accidentally killed someone using the commandment of pacifism. So he immediately deactivated the commandment of love and just switched back to commandment of truth, because he knows the effect of the commandments of truth. Now, skipping to a year later, by the way, Deku in that year continued to experiment with the commandments of love in his room. Deku, after another one of his failed experiments on trying to figure out the commandment of love, he would have found out that he just awakened another one of those mark. And instead of continuing to focus on the commandment of love, Deku would have switched his attention into this new commandment, which, by the way, is the commandment of purity. As for what it does, I'll take the suggestion of a user by the name Uncle Jokes12, or just Uncle Jokes12. I'll put a comment in the screen, well, somewhere. Now, this user suggests that I should give Deku a hyper regeneration power, which I'm going to do in the form of the commandment of purity. However, I will also add something to it. The commandment of purity will not only give Deku the ability of hyper regeneration, it will also allow Deku to be immune to all diseases, poisons, paralyzes, and just anything that is impure to the human body. Basically, the commandment of purity will remove any bad effect on the current user, and also regenerate any damage that is dealt to the user, including broken limbs, lost limbs, and even lost organs. And if you're wondering, this remove all bad effect on the user also applies to the other commandments, meaning that if Deku was affected by one of his commandments and his commandment of purity is on or equipped, he will not be affected. Now, after Deku found out the new commandment's abilities, he would of course be amazed and a lot interested. Oh, how you found out? Let's just say he did some very unhealthy acts. And by that, I mean cutting himself with a knife. Now, Deku, on the age of 13 and about 2 to 3 months before the start of the anime, Deku would have finally found out the powers of the commandment of love, and also get a new commandment, with that commandment being the commandment of faith, which, if you forgot, will set the eyes of those who shows faithlessness in flames. As for how Deku found out these two powers of the commandment, he would actually found them out by accident, because at that time Deku was buying groceries from the store and walking back home, as that was when Deku would have stumbled upon a man holding a cross, with the man continuing to pray, as Deku would just ignore this man. However, that was when the man would have fallen onto the ground. Deku being confused, as he would immediately rush towards the man and try to help him get up. However, the man would just continue to pray, saying that his death is near and for God to forgive him. Deku, panicking, he would try to think of ways to try and find out how to save this man or at least help him. Him thinking that, or at least hoping that, the commandment of purity will be able to help this man, he would start to switch into the commandment of purity. However, at that time, Deku was panicking, meaning that his concentration is a bit off. So he accidentally switched from the commandment of purity into the commandment of faith. Basically, he switched from, let's say, the commandment of truth into the commandment of faith instead of purity. Deku, overlooking that he switched into the wrong one, he would have activated the commandment, causing the man's eyes to start to basically set into a fire, or just set ablaze. The man immediately getting on his feet and running around trying to put out the fire that is in his eyes. Deku being both confused and, well, scared, he would start to panic even more. Deku, looking down his shirt, he would realize that this is not the commandment of purity, it is the commandment of faith, causing Deku to realize that the new mark, or well, the commandment of faith, has the power to set the eyes of others in flames. As just before Deku can turn off and switch to another commandment, the man would start to pray even more. However, when he did, his eyes would just burn even, well, brighter. Deku, noticing that, he would learn a bit more about his, well, new mark. However, before he can come to a conclusion, he would have just switched to a random commandment. this stopping the flames that is in this man's eyes, as this man would have fallen onto the ground on his back and start to gasp for air, with Deku immediately running up and bowing, him apologizing for using his quirk. But that was when this man would have gotten back up and start to yell at Deku for basically ruining his plan, which he continues to yell at Deku, saying that his plan was to basically cause Deku to use all of his money to help him and giving the money to him. To put it simple, this man tried to scam Deku. Deku, still being a bit confused, he would have asked about the man praying on the cross, which the man would just immediately pick up the cross and throw it onto the ground, saying that he doesn't even care about that, he doesn't even believe in God, and that all he cares about is money. Deku, knowing that, he would finally come to the conclusion that his new mark, or well, the Commandment of Faith, has the ability to set the eyes of those who show faithlessness in flames. While Deku was coming to that conclusion, the man would of course get angry and start to hate Deku for ruining his plan. But just as he did, the man would immediately fall onto the ground, unable to move, and having the feeling of all of his powers being sapped out of him. Deku being confused, as he would look down through his shirt again to see that he is currently using the Commandment of Love. And just as Deku realized that he is using the Commandment of Love, he would have started to take notice on what is happening. The man continuing to say that he hates Deku since, Deku did kind of, sort of, ruin his plan, which, by the way, is able to make him a lot of money. With Deku observing what is happening while this man is talking, he would have also came to the conclusion that his second new mark, or well, the Commandment of Love, has the power to render anyone powerless to harm anyone if they have basically if they have hatred, they would not be able to attack anyone or even move. As after Deku realized what is all of his new powers are, he would have just called the cops. Also, if you're wondering why there's no one around those two, or just why no one came helping Deku or the man, it's because Deku right now, let's just say, is at the far side of the city and is really close to the countryside, meaning that there's not that many people traveling around here. Now, whenever the police arrived, Deku would have just told the cops everything that happened. Well, everything except the fact that Deku used his quirk, since using his quirk without a hero license is illegal. After reporting to the police, Deku would have been told by the cops to go back home, since he is still a student. Then, after telling Deku to go back home, they would have also taken the man into custody. As we'll skip to the start of the anime, it being mostly the same, with the exception being that Deku is not as, well, how do you say it, shy? No, I think it's scared. He is not as scared and less confident, just like the anime. In this what if, he has a bit more confidence in himself since he did train from whenever he was 4 years old. And not only did he start training from whenever he was 4 years old, he started training and continued training even until the start of the anime. He is still training, meaning that his physical body and stamina is, well, very strong and has a lot of stamina. Not to mention, Deku has like, what, 6 types of powers? Or well, 6 commandments, which is why he definitely has more confidence in himself and his power. As that day of school, just like I said, would have been mostly the same. You know, the teachers coming to the classroom, throwing the things up, announcing to everyone that they want to be heroes, blah blah blah. Also announcing that Deku and Bakugo are going to UA, which most people are expecting since Deku has a quirk and has trained ever since he was 4 years old. Bakugo, well, they haven't seen him train, but he does have a very strong quirk, which is why they expected it. As for if Bakugo bullied Deku, no, he didn't. Why? Because Deku 1 has a quirk, and 2, he physically looks stronger than Bakugo, which he is. And I know what you're thinking. Bakugo won't be scared because of Deku getting stronger and looking like he's tougher. Yes, you're right, which is why they got into a fight. But that didn't went just as Bakugo expected. Because whenever Bakugo threw explosions at Deku, Deku, even though he is blown away, he just got back up, saying that, "Hey, Kachan, stop that. Throwing an explosion in someone's face is not nice. Also, why did you blast me? I didn't do anything wrong, did I?" Bakugo, seeing that Deku is basically unharmed and is brushing it off like nothing, he would also start to train. And this happened like 1 year before the anime start. Meaning that whenever that fight happened, Deku already know that and already has the commandment of purity and is using it the entire fight. Now, I know you guys are going to hate me for this, but this is where I'm going to leave things off because I still don't know how the entrance exam is going to happen. Or well, I just can't picture a way for Deku to use the commandments and basically get first place or at least accepted to UA. Why? Because just like you saw in my previous what ifs, Deku usually has very strong powers and is able to blow up things fairly easily. But this time, Deku just basically has the power of a normal human, who's just jacked up. Or well, very strong, but not strong enough to punch a hole through metal. Also, his commandments are very situational. So that's why I'm trying to find a way to let Deku basically pass through the entrance exam. And if you guys want to, you can leave a suggestion down below in the comments and basically suggest how I can do this entire entrance exam. And also, there is still one more commandment powers I need, which is the commandment of repose. So leave your power suggestions down below and also how I can do the entrance exam. And yeah, that will be the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. That will be amazing. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!